We officially got our first look at Liam Hemsworth. I can't even say his name. Liam Hemsworth's Geralt in season 4 of The Witcher. Hunger Games star Liam Hemsworth. I mean, he was in the Hunger Games. Is he a star of the Hunger Game? That seems like a bit of a stretch. Hasn't he done other stuff? And I mean, also, that was over a decade ago. He was in Independence Day, Dressmaker, Last Song, Land of Bad. I don't know. He hasn't quite had the raucous success of his brother, but still, I mean, it's like over a decade ago. Anyway, we got the first look at him as Geralt. It's just a series of like small walking shots and brooding, and then he turns to the camera with the yellow eyes. Honestly, I feel bad for the guy. I think he could have done a great Geralt, or he probably will do a great Geralt. The problems with the show are not with him. The problem with the show are with like the showrunner, the writers, the fact that they seem to really want to make any show other than The Witcher. And so they have all of these plot lines that have nothing to do with The Witcher that they're just coming up with to pad out gameplay time. Like when I heard, and I think when all of us heard they were doing a Witcher show, we got excited. We got thrilled. It was like, hell yeah. And then they announced after the first season, which was pretty good, they're like, yeah, and we're going to do like, I think they said 7 seasons or something. We're going to do a lot. And then time goes by. Things start to get a little iffy. Season 2 is really weird. Like they just decide to make the entire season about Frangilla. And you're like, okay, but none of this is like in the books. It's all specifically crafted for this show. And then the story goes nowhere and nobody really cared to begin with. Then you're left like, okay, well, like what are we doing now? And then like season 3, they also continue to double down on covering any story or plot line other than Geralt. And I think a lot of us were hoping that we just get like more monster fights and you'd follow the books really quickly or closely and all of that. But instead, we've just gotten a game that is, or a show that seems dedicated to rewriting the books and trying to make it about all the women of the story, even women that are not in the original stories hardly at all. And then Geralt is like a side character for it. And it's just really frustrating because they had started so strong and then they just continued to kind of blow it. But the Witcher writers hated the Witcher IP. Well, yeah, they were saying things like they found the books highly problematic. They found the books to be really sexist and they wanted to reclaim the stories in a way. And it just was like, okay, if you didn't like the stories, why did you choose to make a Witcher show? You know, it's like, personally, I hate Lord of the Rings. So I've decided to make a Lord of the Rings TV show and we're going to reclaim the books. It's like, they were never yours to claim. Well, we're doing it anyways. And it's like, okay, well, don't be surprised when nobody watches. And that's basically what's happened. There's also other things that haven't really been confirmed or proven. Like, for example, Henry Cavill left the show and we all know this. He left the show. The official story is because he was going to go off and play Superman again. And there were going to be scheduling conflicts. So he left the show to do Superman, and then Superman fell through. So he was left without The Witcher and without Superman. And he just left both of them. He's okay. He's doing the Warhammer show with, I think, Amazon. So he's busy doing stuff, but still. That's the official story. What a lot of us think happened is that he was greatly dissatisfied with the writers and with the direction of the Witcher show. He's never going to say this, of course, because like it's all PR, you know, it's all PR stuff. So he's going to be like, I wish them the best. And I think that they're going to do a great job on the future seasons. And, you know, the show's going to be great. I think like Cavill statement on Witcher. Yeah, he announced his departure from the show. He said, quote, "My journey as Geralt of Rivia has been filled with both monsters and adventures, but alas, I will be laying down my medallion and my swords for season 4. In my stead, the fantastic Mr. Liam Hemsworth will be taking up the mantle of the White Wolf. As with the greatest literary characters, I pass the torch with reverence for the time spent embodying Geralt and enthusiasm to see Liam's take on this most fascinating and nuanced of men. So of course it's all smiles and nods and handshakes, and they're all going to play nice. But I think we all heard the rumblings of trouble. There were statements and arguments that Cavill had been butting heads a lot, and so I think because of those rumors and the rumblings that he was not happy with the direction the show was going, there were stories of him just like straight up telling the writers no to certain things they wanted to do, because he's like, no, that wouldn't be something Geralt would do. It's not something that would happen in this universe. It's not something that's in the books. We're not doing that. He would just stand hard and fast and be like, no, we're not doing it. And because he was Henry Cavill, he was playing Geralt, they kind of had to play along with him. But apparently he was driving some of the writers crazy because they wanted to do a lot more wacky stuff that he wasn't a fan of. But you can see that they've shifted stuff. Let's see, writing for The Independent last year, Nick Hilton argued that replacing Henry Cavill as Geralt was a mistake. I agree. They should have just canceled it, honestly. This was, or is not, a minor tweak to the show, but a change to its DNA that would make Dr. Jekyll think twice. Cavill has always been the best thing about The Witcher, a blockbuster that has suffered from charisma-free supporting actors. Charisma-free supporting actors. Oof. We all know who he's talking about. And writing that even ChatGPT would want to take a second pass at. Cavill's performance, though, has always felt right. And I agree with that. The streamer is also Netflix, has also announced a slew of newcomers joining the cast for season 4, including Lawrence Fishburne as fan favorite barber surgeon Regis Charlton Copley, District 9 and Monkey Man as bounty hunter Leo Bonhart, James Purefoy, The Following, and Solomon Kane as Amir's court advisor and spy Skellen, and Danny Woodburn from Watchmen and Mirror as the dwarf Zoltan. I just don't think it's going to be enough. I mean, again, I think in another universe, Liam, if he had been Geralt from the start, could have found some success. But the problem was never with Geralt or the actor portraying Geralt. The problems were always elsewhere. Hemsworth will continue to play Geralt in season 5, which will be shot back to back with season 4 and will be the show's final season. Netflix recently confirmed. And again, it doesn't really surprise anybody because we've all had suspicions that the show's numbers are probably tanking. But like even this, you look at some of the promotional footage that they share and you're like, who are these people? Like, it's not even focused on Geralt, the Witcher, who is like the guy that the show is named after. What are we doing? And they're like, why aren't people watching? They started strong, but then the second that they got their foot in the door, they just started going crazy. And for me, I watched season 2 and I had no interest in season 3, certainly because I knew that Henry was going to be leaving after. And he was the only one that really felt like an advocate for people that wanted the show to be true to the source material. And so once he left, it was like, okay, well, now there is no limit on what they're going to try to do. Insert Adam Sandler. You blew it. Yeah. I saw the actress who played Yennefer. She was really great in it. Yeah, Yennefer's actress. She's done a good job with it. I think so. As has the actress who plays Ciri. I think she's done a good job. I think, you know, each of these actors in isolation has done a good job, but there's just so many other layers to it where it's like the actor's only as good as the script. And if the script is falling apart and is just a disaster, there's just not much you can do. Netflix always messes stuff up. They had possible money printer of a series and somehow messed it up so badly. Yeah, remember the first season happened and everybody was like, oh, this is going to be the next Game of Thrones. Netflix has their own Game of Thrones. This is crazy. And they've somehow blown it. They had a potential multi-billion-dollar franchise on their hands that they had exclusive rights to, and they blew it. I understand maybe changing some things for it to not be the exact same if you want to just go play the game or read the books. But why go off the rails at the point where it changes the whole show's culture? I just think fundamentally they didn't understand why people were watching. Like, people were watching it to see a high production value representation of the books and what a lot of people only had experienced through the games. And they felt that Henry Cavill was an advocate to make sure that that would happen in a respectful way. However, instead of that, what they got was a first season that was like promising because it was on a smaller budget. So like they were working their way up to it. Season 2 got a little bit better with production value and everything, but it also was weirdly focused for like half of the runtime on plot lines that were not in the books and were completely contrived to seemingly just give actors or actresses and characters like Fringilla more screen time. When people are watching a show called The Witcher, people want to see The Witcher. So everybody's just really weirded out why they're doing it. It's like, what? I stopped after seeing Geralt's friend turn into a tree monster or something. Yeah, and stuff like that, where it was just like, it was odd. It was really odd. The Nilfgaardian ballsack armor. I will at least, maybe I'll defend them on that. That was a bold design choice. And you know what? It's bold. It's not what I would have chosen to do for their armor, but at least it was different. It was a little interesting. It was an attempt at an interesting thing. But it did look like they were wearing gigantic scrotums as clothing. I will give you that. It did look like that, yes. The showrunner fundamentally misunderstood the idea behind the story. She saw herself in Yen and thought it was about family, and it just wasn't. Yeah, Bust a Nut just said, you could call the armor ballsy. Yeah, you could. Sure could. But I mean, I agree. I think that there's just a series of misunderstandings, and no matter what, like the way you look at it, the audience has grown disillusioned and disenfranchised from the show. The show's job is to cater to the audience and to give the audience what they want to see. That's the show's job. The show's job is not to do something subversive and blow your mind with some emotional or moral lesson, you know, that everybody hates. The job is to service the customer. That's what you're trying to do. And you can't look at it and argue anything but that they failed that, because they clearly failed it. If they were successful, the show would be successful. So clearly they have failed. So the goal should be to figure out what went wrong. And pretty clearly the audience that was, I mean, somebody like me that watched it initially and loved it, and that stopped watching it because it didn't fulfill what I was hoping it would fulfill. They should be coming to people like us and like, okay, well, what is the goal? What did we do wrong? How should we change it? How should we fix it? But instead they've told us that like, oh, if we don't like season 2 or season 3 of The Witcher, then we're just like sexist, or we're just bigots, or we're just this or that. It's like, okay, well, you've just verified that I'm not going to watch your show then. Okay. It was a show called The Witcher, and The Witcher was a background character. So I stopped watching because I wanted to watch The Witcher. And if you don't take that, okay, I can't do much for you. Just play the games. Well, the games are fine. The books are fantastic. I have the books down. I guess they're right there. They're behind the red light right there. But I have the books. The books are great and have some amazing stories in them that aren't explored in the same way in the games. So it's like, I would like to see those stories represented and told. And that's why season 1 was interesting, because they told a lot of those smaller stories that you wouldn't have seen or maybe you heard rumblings of in the games, but instead we just didn't get any of it. Oh yeah, Edge Runners was great. Luke just can't appreciate the brave and stunning and beautiful choices that they made. Yeah. Stunning, brave, and beautiful. Companies need to study the Fallout adaptation, honestly. Good stuff. Or even take existing worlds and tell new stories in these worlds. Yeah, it's just, if you respect the source material and you respect the audience that loves and cherishes those franchises, you can do well. Like, but the moment that you start talking down to the audience and telling them that they are the problem, it's like, well, what we're doing is actually awesome and you just don't like it. So, okay. Doesn't matter. If you open an ice cream shop and you put together a brand new gallon of ice cream that you're really proud of, and then the customer comes in and all the customers are like, this tastes like actual diarrhea. This is horrible. And then the ice cream shop owner goes, well, actually, it's really good. And if you don't like it, you just don't know what good food is or good ice cream is. So maybe you shouldn't be taking the ice cream. You shouldn't be surprised when the companies go, or when the customers go, okay, and leave, and then nobody buys your ice cream. Like, of course, if you talk down to your customers, they're gonna leave and not give you money. And then you're like, but where did the money go? Where did the customers go? It's because you told them to eat the diarrhea ice cream. Damn it, you know? But this is why I've said before, like, whether it's the Sweet Baby Inc. stuff or whether it's the Netflix stuff, like whenever activist writing gets involved with games or film or TV or whatever, it generally tanks the quality. Sometimes not. Sometimes it can be done in a way that doesn't really affect the quality. And I see sometimes I can't think of an example, but there probably is one example. But generally, it tanks the quality and the games or shows or movies will flop. So these things usually have a way of working themselves out and leveling out. It's too bad that so much like time and money is wasted, but at least it generally settles, you know, like with how horrible Forspoken was. Like they really thought that was going to be a badass character that would be on the level of like Ellie or Aloy from Horizon. And they were apparently genuinely shocked when people didn't connect with Forspoken. Like, we thought people would really like it. But that's because they were in a bubble, you know? They didn't ask anybody outside of their bubble what the deal was. And that's perhaps most baffling of all. So I wish them the best with the new seasons of The Witcher. I won't really be watching unless I hear wonderful, wonderful things that they've pulled like a 180. But I feel bad for Liam because I think he's going to do probably a very good job. But the problem was never with him or the portrayal of Geralt. The problem was always with the script and the show running and everything else.